So this is a role play video for a class, and it is for educational purposes. So what brings you in?
Well, found out, been drinking, having some issues at work, but did some digging. I'm adopted. I think I've told you that before, but I found out that my past history, that my real family actually has a history of drugs and alcohol, and so I just realized I've got to get my life together. So I thought I needed to try to get some counseling. So I came to see you guys and found my way back to church. So between reaching out to you guys and trying to get help from God. I think I want to kick this to it because I don't want to go down the path of my family.
Okay. So did something trigger or did something happen that brought you?
Just having some issues at work, just more or less not making it on time, stuff like that. And so I just realized I was drinking more and more. I'm going through divorce, so that was always hard. And so decided I was going to reach out and figure out who my family. I've always known I was adopted, but figure out my family history. And so from that standpoint, I kind of did some digging and found out that through aunts and uncles on my real parents that my mom is an alcoholic and my sister has an issue with drugs. And so I don't want to go down that path. I've got to get my drinking under control because I don't want to follow in their footsteps.
Okay. So how long have you been struggling with drinking?
I would say probably 2 years.
Okay.
I was a casual drinker before, weekends, and I guess it became more of a daily occurrence.
Okay. So about 2 years ago, you said. So in that 2 year time period, was there anything going on?
Just issues at home.
Okay.
Just trying to get over that. So unfortunately, I did like most people and turned to alcohol instead of getting help like I needed to.
Okay. So the issues that you said that were going on, would this be the problems with your marriage?
Yes. So
Okay.
just kind of, you hold it in for a long time, and then you kind of more or less at that point we were just fighting nonstop, and so it just instead of trying to face the problem, I turned to alcohol.
Okay. Okay. So, and then how has it been in the last 2 years? Like you've said that it's kind of caused some issues with the job. Did it increase drinking?
Yeah, so wife and I got separated about a year ago, and so 2 years ago started drinking. When we separated, I started drinking a little more to the point now where I do travel for work, and so I've had a couple cases where I'm at the hotel and I just can't even get up to go to work, and I go to work late and just kind of let myself go
Mm-hmm.
situation. And now I'm just trying to get that under control. I don't want to lose my job. I really enjoy what I do, but got to get that taken care of.
Okay. Okay. And so when did you find out about your family? When did you start digging into your real family?
5 or 6 years ago, I met my real family. It was a very awkward situation. I couldn't get answers, but about 6 months ago, I called what would be my biological aunt
Mm-hmm.
and started talking with her and started asking questions, and that's when she told me the real truth, and she informed me that unfortunately that there was a history of alcoholism and drug addiction in our family. It would be on my mom's side.
On your mom's side. So did you find out anything about your mom? Like what she was like?
Not really. When we met, there was not really much to talk about. She
Mhm.
didn't want to answer my questions, so it got really awkward. But I did find out, she just job hopper, couldn't, get her life together, and she felt that the best thing for her to do was to put us up for adoption, but it really wasn't her choice. It was our grandmother at the point had my brother and I, and so it was kind of more or less. I think grandma said, "Hey, I can't raise your kids and live my life," and so we were both put up for adoption. We were adopted by the same people, luckily, but comes down to she chose the struggle would be she chose the route of her drugs and alcohol versus taking care of her kids.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like she chose like the choices that she made was not necessarily her family, but more or less the vices that were in her life.
Absolutely.
Okay. What are your thoughts about that?
Um, it's hard because you're realizing that someone's choosing um, their vices, like they're choosing drugs and alcohol over their kids. They're choosing to continue to party over their kids. They're choosing to not step up to the plate and be a parent so they can continue on. And that's, it's hard.
Mhm.
It's hard to find out, like that's one of the best things to happen was getting adopted, but at the same time, to know that you were an afterthought,
Mhm.
it's kind of hard.
Mhm. Do you see any looking back on the choices that she's made compared to the choices that you're making even now, choosing to do counseling and to kind of change your ways, what are your thoughts on like your life compared to their life?
So, being adopted was the best thing that ever happened to me. Like, I was afforded opportunities that I would not have been afforded in that lifestyle. My parents didn't have money, but at the same time, they gave me the best lifestyle that I could get.
Mm-hmm.
I never was around drugs. My parents drank, but it was very little. I didn't see that until I was fresh out of high school when I saw my parents drink for the first time, and it was just, this kind of cool, awkward moment to see these people that
Mm-hmm.
raised in church, and then all of a sudden you find out, hey, they do drink. They've just hid it from you all your life, and so kind of a cool opportunity, get to see them in a different perspective. Was raised very religious, like at church every time the door was open, and just life just wasn't the best, but it was the best we could get, right?
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Did your perception or perspective of them change when they would like kind of? It seems like they kind of let their hairs down, like once you became of age and you got to see
Actually,
kind of their
no,
real self. No,
I thought they were cooler. I thought because everyone growing up all your life, you're like, your parents are great, your parents are cool, and you're like, no, they're not. But after you see them, you see your parents do that, it changes. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, hey, there is. Mom, I do have a mom that's pretty cool. I do have a dad that's pretty cool because like they do know how to let their hair down. And
Mm-hmm.
funny story, my dad came in one night, intoxicated.
Mm-hmm.
My mom did. I was home. I wasn't partying or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad, my mom says my dad's in the car. Go help us get him in the car. And I'm like, I have a car in the house. I'm like, leave his butt in the car.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward like 6 months later, I do the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad tells my mom to leave me in the car. And so it comes full circle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so like that was the first time for me to ever drink. Because like I really hadn't drank. I mean, I drank, but it wasn't really drinking
Mm-hmm.
like that. And so I was like, for my dad to say that, that's kind of funny. It's just kind of brought it back on me.
That is funny. So your parents that raised you, do you feel like their story is very different than your biological mom?
Oh, absolutely. So like, from what I understand, my mom has not held down a serious relationship. She's bounced from guy to guy or job to job or apartment to apartment. My parents bought their home when they were, before they even got married.
Mm-hmm.
Have been married 42 years in June. It's where I really learned what love was, whereas I wouldn't have known that.
Mm-hmm. If
from
you would have
my
been brought up in the biological.
Yeah. I mean, like she's bounced around from man to man. So versus seeing a consistent, happy family.
Mm-hmm. So as far as you know, like you said, you touched base with her 5 years ago. Is she still struggling with her addictions, her drinking, and?
So my brother keeps up with her. I don't,
Mm-hmm.
and he said that she still drinks, not as much, but she does still drink.
Mm-hmm.
So her life is still kind of a wreck.
And you said in your family you had a history of drug addiction too?
So I have a biological sister who's older than I am, and she struggled very hard. Unfortunately, she was on a path to graduate from college, and right before she graduated, she got busted with drugs and went to jail for something I think that's very stupid. I mean, you're right there ready to start your life, and just couldn't get away from it. She was raised by my grandmother, but still could not get away from it. I guess her mom still had an influence, which is one of the reasons I'm thankful that I was adopted, because my grandma had raised me. There's still a chance that my mother could have influenced me.
Gotcha. And it sounds like the environment was very chaotic, probably, as far as the grandmother even raising you guys when you were little.
Absolutely. So I don't remember. I was a year and 8 days old. My brother does have some memories of living with our grandmother. He really won't talk to me that much, but he was very chaotic, very. What happens, like my parents went and picked us up, I want to say at like 11 o'clock at night when they found out they were going to get to adopt us.
Mm-hmm.
and so everything went down. They had nothing, like they had no diapers or anything, and so like the secretary at the attorney's office had a son like that was like a month older than me.
Mhm.
They brought diapers and formula for my parents, and just everything happened in the middle of the night. They met at a gas station in Kilgore, Texas,
Wow.
and did this little handoff, and the process started the next day with the attorneys drawing up the paperwork.
Wow. But you don't remember any of that. You were too young.
None.
Okay. What is your earliest memory that you can
Um,
remember?
I go back to I remember we had a cat named Snoopy. I remember him. I was probably 3
Mhm.
when he died, and then the first time my mom left me, my brother and I with my dad, I think we were probably 2.5 or 3.
Mhm.
I don't remember what brought it up, but like my dad was burning leaves, had been
Mhm.
burning leaves, and my brother and I went and played in the leaves, like the burnt leaves, and were covered in soot.
Mhm.
And my mom came home and flipped a lid on my dad, and he's like, "They're boys, it'll be all right," you know.
Mhm.
And she was not used to that, and so there's that. And my mom took a water hose and sprayed us down before she let us come in the house. So, just like that's the earliest thing I remember. I was probably 2.5, 3.
So you remember that? That wasn't a story that was told to you?
I remember being covered in soot because
Soot,
I had
okay.
blonde hair at the time, and they said that it
Oh,
was
your
everywhere. And
blonde
I just
hair was-
remember, like, my brother looking at Jeremy, and he was covered in soot, and I was covered in soot, and we didn't care. We were having fun, but
Mhm.
poor Pops got in trouble. We didn't, but he did.
Okay. So you had great memories with mom and dad.
Oh, absolutely. I've
Yeah.
had a great life
Childhood.
leading up to it, and that's why I'm so fearful now that I want to get this under control, because I want to continue to have those great memories. I don't want to end up down the path that my sister went, or my mother.
Yeah. So I think I find it courageous that you do realize that there's a problem and that you're seeking the treatment that you need to, change things around and make different decisions than what your bio family did. So how do you see changing? Like, how do you? I mean, oh wait, let me back up. Looking at where you're at right now, like kind of you going to the darker place where, going through a separation with a wife that you've been married to for a very long time. How does that transition of like that chapter ending cause you to want to drink more and kind of like
We did have love at one time. She went through a pretty traumatic experience herself, and so from my standpoint, it was just going through that. Being alone,
Mhm.
having to start over. The whole thought of having to start over in life, and
Mhm.
so it just more or less, instead of just coping with it, I decided I would handle it myself, and so I turned to alcohol instead.
Okay. So how do you feel that alcohol helped you during that time when you were struggling?
I think it kind of numbed me. It just didn't. I didn't have to deal with the pain of what was going on. I left. It was my choice to leave, but at the same time, it was a struggle because I'm walking away from 13 years of being together. I'm walking away from a life that I thought I knew,
Mhm.
that I was comfortable with, and when you make that decision, it's very hard. You're starting over.
Mhm.
Like I left everything, the house, the furniture, I took the dog and my clothes, and that was it. Like I was done.
Mhm. What got you to that point where you just had to leave?
We were fighting like nonstop to the point where I didn't even want to come home. I traveled for work, like I said earlier, and
Mhm.
I would find reasons to leave town earlier. I would find reasons to like stay out of town. I just did not want to come home.
Mhm.
And so when I got to that point, we had a big fight over her giving someone else a gift, and she never gave me a gift until I snapped on that. But we had a restaurant when it happened, and then got home, had a huge fight about it, and then the next day, I just got up and I was at work, and I was like, I'm done.
Mhm. So it sounds like because like she didn't get you a gift and she don't, there's times that you'd come home and you didn't feel appreciated or welcomed home. It's almost like you felt like you weren't wanted, like you didn't belong there.
Very
in a way?
much so. So like
Okay.
it was her house, not mine. Like I would work from our East Texas district, and I felt like I was an intruder in my own home, like because I'm home during the week, and it was, I guess you just throw off that person's routine, and it was just very awkward. Because you go like, well, oh here, let me join you for dinner. Here, not what do you want to do for dinner? It's oh well, normally on Mondays I eat at so and so, or I have scrambled eggs or whatever. I guess I'll figure out what we can do together. And it was
Mhm.
just, I felt like I was an intruder in my own home. Like I was not. You hit it right. Wasn't welcome.
So it was kind of like that's what hit your breaking point. Like this was just not a very, like welcoming environment, and you didn't feel like you were loved kind of maybe the relationship was kind of going in a wrong direction and there was no way to get it back on track?
Yeah, so like she turned her back on God, and I realized now that, you know, I'm alive because of God, and so
Mhm.
without that, I would have been probably traveling down the same path she was.
Mm-hmm.
She unfortunately had turned to alcohol way before I did,
Mm-hmm.
and so that was one of the things we fought with, was that, you know, her use of alcohol, and then heck, here I am doing the same thing that she was, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get help
Okay.
where she wasn't.
So you guys both kind of had different things that happened. Yours is kind of the marriage kind of falling up to the wayside. She had kind of a traumatic experience that happened, and both of you leaning on alcohol as your coping mechanism. You mentioned earlier about getting back into church, and how has your faith helped as a coping mechanism?
Wow. So just reaching out to God, like realizing that without Him, that I would not be where I'm at today. So like I've gone back to church, I've reached out, found a church that I like, and just realizing that God can. When I was getting separated, like it was just this struggle, and then didn't want to go to church, didn't want anything to do with, you know. I'd also with everything going on, had kind of walked away from my family, and so that kind of pushed me back to. Now that I'm realizing what I'd done, I kind of got back with my family, and so then I was like, I got to get it right with everybody, and so like I go back to church, and it was a struggle because He'll always forgive you, but you know it's hard to forgive yourself, and so it's a daily struggle realizing that I was wrong, He was right. He was leading me the whole time, but I did not want to follow His path.
So you getting back into church and finding that forgiveness, that He forgives you, you're working on the forgiveness of yourself. How has that helped incorporate bringing your family in?
So, you know, like we kind of had an issue where we were kind of, I don't want to say falling out, but like we all didn't talk, and so I was still talking to my parents, but not near as much as I am now, and so like I had lost touch with my brother, and so like one thing that I started praying for was like, you know, like to renew a relationship with my family, and so more or less just kind of slowly started the process of reaching out. My brother had had twin boys. I didn't know them. Like I didn't have a relationship with them, and that was one thing. One of the struggles was that I wanted to be the uncle that they wanted to see, and so like I said, I'm going to do everything I can to get them excited to see me. And so one day I finally go over, guys, we start the process, and I knock on the door, and I hear Uncle Jeff's here, and they get all excited, and they run to the door. And so like for me, that was the, you know, turning point. Like I was like, all right, so I do have family. I do have people that care besides, you know, the alcohol.
And even like the wife, that's kind of like that relationship that's kind of shaky. It's kind of like you've reconnected, reestablished roots that you once had and kind of drifted away from a little bit.
Yeah, so I walked away from one relationship to gain 3 or 4, so it's worth it to me. Like I may have lost a marriage, but I gained my brother back. I gained 2 nephews, 2 nieces, and now his wife. And then I'm back. I have a relationship with my parents, a stronger relationship with my parents, and then a relationship with God. So I gained several relationships that I kind of turned my back on.
Okay. So how has this process been helping you? Because I know you said reconnecting with family has been kind of like a turning point for you. Like it's kind of renewed kind of your faith. Like it's like you focused on God and faith, and yet it brought you full circle to your family again, reuniting you guys. And then how is it helping you with some of the things that are coming up, the more struggles that are coming up?
I have a support system now.
Okay.
When I was alone, it was me and alcohol. And now I have a support system. I have my parents. I have a church family. I have family that loves me. And so just knowing that I have them, I know that I've got a reason to kick it so that I can spend time with them, so I can be with my family.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I think that's good.